Hey, Shalom. I'd like to give all praises, glory, and honors to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Akakwadash. I'd like to give double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace, salutations, and blessings to the elect who firmly believe on Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai. Now the title of this lesson is going to be Daniel, the 7th chapter, breakdown. And this inspiration of this lesson pretty much comes from the apostles, they pretty much were pushing prophecy. How we got to understand these scriptures. We got to understand the breakdowns of these scriptures, and it's important that we do understand these scriptures as far as the prophecy aspect of it, the deep, dark meanings, of the Holy Scriptures, because that's what sets Great Millstone apart from these other so-called Israelite camps. Here it is, we get into, the prophecy of the mark of the beast, World War III, and things of that nature, Jacob's trouble, but it's also imperative, that we dive into these breakdowns, and the deep, dark sayings of the Holy Scriptures. That's important as well, because I remember Apostle Tahar, he was pushing the message of you got to understand the history, the secular history, in order to understand the scriptures, in its entirety, and that's what also sets us apart from these so-called Christians caught up in these churches. We're on a very high level, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai to understand these scriptures, and put the pieces of the puzzle together. They couldn't even tell you what the statue represents. They can't tell you what the seas represent. They can't tell you these things, up in these churches. That's why primarily, the congregation, the service is nothing but a song and dance, man. For 4 hours. Barely any scriptures get pulled out and broken down or spoken upon. So the first scripture I want to get is the book of Revelation, chapter 19, verse 10. It says, "And I fell at his feet to worship him. And he said unto me, See thou do it not. I am thy fellow servant and of thy brethren that have the testimony of Yahushai. Worship the Heavenly Father, for the testimony of Yahushai is the spirit of prophecy." That's the testimony, man, of Yahushai is the spirit of prophecy. And when you check out Daniel, the 7th chapter, it was written thousands of years ago, before the cases and scenario actually happened. When it says a vision, when the scriptures speak upon a vision, you're seeing something before it actually happens. So like we see the vision of America being destroyed, yet America isn't destroyed yet. That's a vision that we receive. Certain brothers have dreams about it. Certain brothers have visions of chaos in the streets and representation of, Jacob's trouble, race wars, and things of that nature. So just like we have visions of this coming destruction, Daniel had visions as well, and that's a prophecy, in which was a prophecy. In which was a prophecy, right? Let me get Daniel chapter 7. I'm going to start at the top. It says, "In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matters. Daniel spoke and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of the heaven strove upon the great sea, and four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another." And them four winds of the heaven that strove upon the great sea, and the four great beasts that the scriptures are speaking of, is the four empires, the four great empires that actually ruled. And that's Babylon. That's the Persian and Medes Empire. You had the Greek Empire, and you had the Roman Empire, and America is the second leg of the Roman Empire. That's why everything that you see before you in America pretty much mirrors Rome. Like they had the two different parties during ancient Rome, and just like in America, you have the two ancient parties as far as Republican and the Democrat. And to the way they built the buildings in Rome. You got like the Supreme Court, pretty much the court judicial system. They had that in Rome. You have that today. Just like in Rome, the dollar, or not the dollar, but the currency was being devalued. Same thing that's happened in America. The currency is being devalued. So America is just a second leg of Rome. It mirrors Rome, to the way the army, spread themselves thin, you know, and didn't put much resources into its what you call it, like the infrastructure, of Rome. They pretty much put their money into the armies, just like America. America puts its money into the armies and not the infrastructure. That's why you see a lot of sinkholes, happening, a lot of bridges caving in and things of that nature, because all of that money is going into the armies, But yeah, those four great beasts that came upon the sea, that's the Babylonian Empire, the Persian and Medes, the Greeks, and the Roman Empire, with America being the second leg of the Roman Empire. It says the first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked. That lion is in representation of the Babylonian Empire. And it says I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked. The wings that were plucked is talking about the Assyrian Empire. Because when you check out the history, Babylon, took down Assyria. And it says, and it was lifted up from the earth and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. It says, and behold, another beast, a second like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had three ribs in the mouth of it between the teeth of it. And the second beast that rose up was the Persia. And it says, second to like unto a bear, and raised up itself on one side. The one side of the bear that was raised up is talking about Persia. So when you see a bear pretty much walk, one shoulder is higher than the other. So the one side that was exalted or was raised up, that's a representation of Persia, and the other shoulder that's dropped down is talking about Media. Because Persia made Media subject unto it when they took it over in battle, right? And it says, and it had three ribs in the mouth of it between the teeth of it. And the three ribs is in representation of the conquest of the Persians. And those three conquests were actually Lydia, Babylon, and Egypt. Those were the three conquests when you check out the history. You know what I'm saying? And as a matter of fact, let me get into this history right here. It actually was updated August 15th, about a month ago. Persian Empire, right? And it says the Persian Empire, just the back, because the Bible stands alone. That's why the scriptures say no other book shall want her mate. The scriptures was already written. History, these particular matters had to back, the scriptures that were actually written. So this is what we call a fulfillment, right? It says, let me just get into a synopsis of the Persian Empire. It says the Persian Empire is the name given to the series of dynasties centered in modern-day Iran that spans several centuries from the 6th century BC to the 20th century AD. The first Persian Empire, founded by Cyrus the Great around 550 BC, became one of the largest empires in history, stretching from, and that goes into the beginning of, the scriptures where it says, great beast. These were one of the great beasts that rose up, because the Persian Empire, became one of the largest empires in history, stretching from Europe's Balkan Peninsula in the west to India's Indus Valley in the east. This Iron Age dynasty, sometimes called the Achaemenid Empire, was a global hub of culture, religion, science, art, and technology for more than 200 years before it fell to the invading armies of Alexander the Greek. What I'm saying? He wasn't great. He was great in wickedness. It says the Persian Empire started as a collection of semi-nomadic tribes who raised sheep, goats, and cattle on the Iranian plateau. Cyrus the Great, the leader of one such tribe, began to defeat nearby kingdoms, including Media, in which Media was made subject unto Persia. So it became the Persian and Medes. It says Lydia and Babylon, joining them under one rule. He founded the first Persian Empire, also known as the Achaemenid Empire in 550 BC. The first Persian Empire under Cyrus the Great soon became the world's first superpower. It united under one government three important sites of early human civilization in the ancient world: Mesopotamia, Egypt's Nile Valley, and India's Indus Valley. Cyrus the Great is immortalized in the Cyrus cylinder, a clay cylinder inscribed in 539 BC, with the story of how he conquered Babylon from King Nabonidus, bringing an end to the Neo-Babylonian Empire. Darius the Great, the fourth king of the Achaemenid Empire, ruled over the Persian Empire when it was at its largest, stretching from the Caucasus and West Asia to what was then Macedonia, the Black Sea and Central Asia, even into Africa, including parts of Libya and Egypt. He unified the empire through introducing standard currency and weights and measures, making Aramaic the official language, and building roads, the Behistun inscription and multilingual relief carved into Mount Behistun in western Iran extols his virtues and was a critical key to the deciphering cuneiform script. Its impact and is compared that of the Rosetta Stone, the tablet that enabled scholars to decipher Egyptian hieroglyphics. So that's pretty much getting into like the conquest that it pretty much got into, as far as the the conquest that the scriptures speak upon, as far as had it had three ribs in the mouth of it between the teeth of it. And they said, thus unto it, arise, devour much flesh. And like I just read, how they pretty much covered much land during their rule. So that backs up that particular prophecy of the second beast. And it says, after this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it four wings of a fowl. The beast had also four heads, and dominion was given to it. And this leopard that is speaking of is Alexander the Greek. And he's a leopard because it was in representation of his swiftness and how he pretty much conquered the known land at that particular time and within 12 years. And I believe there's images of Alexander the Greek actually wearing like leopard skin, over his back. And the four wings is in representation, of the four generals. You had Cassander, in which I believe he was from Macedonia. You had Seleucus, which was from Syria. You had Laomachus, that was from Asia. You had Ptolemy, which was from Egypt. That's in representation, of the four wings of a fowl. The beast had also four heads. The four heads is also in representation of his four generals. And when you get into the research and you do your history, it backs up that information. This is what you call parabolic talk. That is why this understanding of the scriptures is only given unto the elect. And this was written before the events actually happened. Prophecy. It says, after this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It's talking about Rome, and Rome was well known for its army. Its army is in representation of the great iron teeth, right? It says, it devoured and brake in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns, and this is talking about Rome. This at this point it's talking about Rome, and here it is when you check it out, when it's talking about how he break in pieces, the residue with his feet, it's talking about Israel, it's talking about Israel, and because the feet of it, is like the 10 toes, if you will. It's talking about America, and America is where the Israelites went into slavery. So I'm gonna read that part again. It says it, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And the residue is in representation of Israel, and the feet of it is talking about the feet of it is talking about America. And it was diverse from all beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. Reading on, it says, Salakia, I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn. And I'm sorry, when you check it out, the ten horns is talking about NATO. The toes, like the toes are because like you have 10 toes, upon your feet, and the 10 horns is a representation of NATO. And it's so diverse because what the weapons of warfare, the way they rode around, upon when it came down to warfare, and when you check it out, they just moved different, to the different empires that pretty much came before them, But the 10 horns is a representation of NATO, and I believe the EU, right? It says, I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn. That little horn is a representation of England, and it says, before whom they were 3 of the first horn plucked up by the roots, and this was during the Revolutionary War. And those 3 little horns is a representation of France, Spain, and Britain. When we check it out, a couple of those two of those 3, France, they pretty much came from not France, Florida. They pretty much got a lot of their customs from Spain. When you check out like New Orleans, Louisiana, they got a lot of their customs from France. So like a lot of the culture was adopted here in America in those particular states, if you will. So it says, I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, like I said, was England, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and the mouth speaking great things. Right, reading on, it says, I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the ancients of days did sit. And that's talking about Yahweh, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. And this pretty much is describing the Heavenly Father in his appearance. And when you check out, his son looks just like him. His son Yahushua looks just like him. It says, a fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him. Let's talk about the angels and the chariots. And 10,000 times 10,000s stood before him. The judgment was set, and the books were opened. I beheld then, because of the voice of the great words which the horn spake, I beheld even till the beast was slain, and his body destroyed and given to the burning flame. Essentially America being destroyed. Essentially all of these empires being destroyed. And that's pretty much what's going to happen. That's pretty much what is going to happen, in these last days. Reading on, let me see where else it says, verse 12, as concerning the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season and time. I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven, and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. And there was given him dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed. I, Daniel, was grieved in my spirit in the midst of my body, and the visions of my head troubled me. I came near unto one of them that stood by, and asked him the truth of all this. So he told me and made me know the interpretation of things. These great beasts which are 4 kings which shall arise out of the earth. But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom, and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. Then I would know the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron, and his nails of brass, which devoured, brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet. And the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, and before him whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes, and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints, and prevailed against them, until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, and the king, and the time that the saints possessed the kingdom. Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon the earth, which will dwell in upon now, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down and break it in pieces. And that's what we see now with the second leg of Rome, which is talking about America. It pretty much devoured the whole earth, when it comes to its democracy, its way of life, its influence. America pretty much destroyed the whole earth. So that's why America is also known as the virgin whore, essentially. Because here it is, it has an American embassy suites, not American embassy, but American embassy, in pretty much all of these countries all over the world. However, no warfare has pretty much taken place on the soils of America. There's really haven't been any chaos to where there was an invasion, but that day is coming. So that pretty much brings a conclusion, to Daniel 7. It's important to, get into the understanding of these scriptures, get into some research and things of that nature, because like the apostles say, it's all about prophecy. Prophecy is what sets us apart, from all of these Israelite groups, you know what I'm saying? And that's how you're of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, by understanding the prophecy. So with that, I like to give all praises, glory, and honors to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakak Wadash. I like to give double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace, salutations, and blessings to the elect. Shalom.